Welcome back to World War Live, everybody. I am your host, Conrad, Franz, joined by nobody. It is just me here at WWL. I'm hoping everybody's having a fantastic Tuesday evening. I'm doing well. I'm actually a bit under the weather, so I apologize if I'm coughing or sneezing or sniffling or anything like that, but getting over some illness that appears to be going around, so hopefully it's not too much of a distraction. Obviously, if you want to ask a question, contribute to the discussion, be sure to send in a super chat. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you would like to discuss. We've got a great show for you this evening. Going to be discussing a few World War III related issues, cultural issues, things that have been being discussed in the Twitter sphere, the ether, as it were. So again, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we're going to probably be playing some Ethnogesser once I run out of things to yap about, so hoping to look forward to that. Again, answering everybody's questions if anyone wants to send in a super chat. But yeah, I think we're going to be discussing, someone's talking about the murdered altar server. We might be discussing that as well as a few other things, but I want to thank everybody again for tuning in, and I want to remind everybody that if you want to support the show, worldwarnow.co, worldwarnow.substack.com, that is where our home base is, where all of our premium content is that you can get access to, of course. We just recorded an Ether Hour episode today, earlier before this stream, with Cameron McGregor. He returned to help us discuss everything going on in the economy with Trump's new trade war, all these sorts of things. So it's a great show. I hope it'll be coming out tomorrow, hopefully no later than Thursday, and we will be breaking down everything that's going on right now, because the economy, World War III, the economic factor of it has definitely escalated. So be sure to check that out and look forward to that. Again, worldwarnow.co. All of this is linked down in the description below. So, again, please support the show. But with all of that, I was going to get into some of the recent news here. People might have seen on the Telegram, I covered this, but here, hopefully the share screen made it over. There we go. This is some big news. Turkic states recognize Republic of Cyprus, sparking outrage and sense of betrayal in Ankara. And for those that don't know, the Republic of Cyprus, that is actual Cyprus, that is Greek Cyprus, the flag that everybody sees with the I don't know why the audio would be quiet. I'm pretty sure. Let me know if this is any better. But I recorded a show earlier with these settings and it was fine. So everybody let me know in the chat if it sounds any better. But I want to make sure that I'm tuned into the audio. Yeah, I am connected to the correct mic. All right, that's better. So anyway, talking about the Turkic states recognizing the Republic of Cyprus. The Republic of Cyprus is that flag that everybody sees with the actual golden island of Cyprus on it and the leaves, and that is unrecognized. I think it technically even is recognized by Turkey, but the northern part of the these are the flags on the left, the Greek and the Cypriot flag, and then you have the Turkish and the TRNC flag, which is the unrecognized Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, which is recognized only by Turkey. And the big news, of course, is that 3 members of the Turkic states organization, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and Turkmenistan, have officially recognized the Greek Republic of Cyprus and have established embassies in its capital of Nicosia. This move, which contradicts Turkey's 2-year push for these nations to recognize the self-proclaimed Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, has triggered a wave of disappointment and geopolitical frustration in Turkey. Media outlets decry the development as a fiasco and a strategic failure of President Erdogan's foreign policy. Again, so for those that don't know, Cyprus is cut in half by this UN demilitarized zone that supposedly, that's the Turkish side in the north, the Greek side in the south. Of course, in 1974, the Turks invaded northern Cyprus, ethnic cleansing, a lot of people died. Metropolitan Neophytos was involved in this. I believe his brother passed away in the invasion, was killed, and his entire diocese, even the metropolis of Morphu, is split in half. He himself is in the village of Evriçu, which is not Morphu, and I don't know why everybody is saying it's quiet. It should be a lot louder. Let me try something. Let me know if this is better. Don't know why there's issues. I'm not really doing anything different. But the situation in Cyprus is, again, most of the world recognizes that the Republic of Cyprus is, they have a claim over the entire island, and only Turkey recognized the northern part. But Turkey had been very much pressuring these other Turkic states. And again, as we've talked a lot about on World War Now, there's this Turkic belt forming in Russia's southern flank. And this, of course, includes Azerbaijan, which is considered, two states, one nation with the greater Turkish nation. And then there's, of course, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. Most of the stands are Turkic. Of course, Tajikistan is actually Persian, but still has some Turkic influence. But yes, the Turkish press have been very outraged at this. And the reason the TRNC recognition would be so important, of course, is for, obviously Turkey's and Erdogan's greater neo-Ottoman ambitions, but even more than that, just for basic practical purposes. If you live in the TRNC in northern Cyprus, I don't know how it's going to be. Oh, so now some people say it's too loud. Some people say it's too quiet. I don't know what to do. But people with wrenches, I will trust your perspective. But making me lose my train of thought. But the main thing is, if you live in Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, you can't even fly anywhere outside of the TRNC without going through Turkey. So everyone basically flies to Ankara, Istanbul. I think there is even an airport in southern Turkey that is kind of dedicated to the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus and making sure that they can fly out and everything. So that's the situation there. But there was even rumors that we discussed on the show that the Iranians were training Islamic forces in northern Cyprus. I was very skeptical of that because Turkey and Iran are not exactly best friends. But I'll keep reading this article here. Pro-government media, so pro-Erdogan media, including Yeni Akit and Haber 7, framed the situation as a geopolitical maneuver by the EU to weaken Turkish and Russian influence in Central Asia. They pointed to the EU Central Asia Summit in Samarkand, where a 12 billion euro investment package was announced for sectors like the Central Corridor, raw materials, digital connectivity, and green energy. These outlets labeled the deal an exchange aimed at neutralizing the organization of Turkic states and, by extension, Turkey's regional influence. And this isn't surprising either that major blows to Turkey's regional influence would start coming now, because Turkey has arisen, at least as Israel's sort of immediate main problem. Israel, remember, they bombed the T4 airbase, these places in Homs and Palmyra, where the Turks were openly talking about setting up military bases deeper into Syria, closer to Israeli territory, and the Israelis took matters into their own hands, and they made sure that these bases were unusable. And again, Erdogan has made very bellicose rhetorical points against Israel, despite keeping up oil shipments towards them, and obviously facilitating the Israeli-Azerbaijani relationship, which is very extensive and very multilateral, to say the least. But the fact that Israel is now somewhat an enemy of Turkey, it would make sense that the EU and these other places that are, fully captured by world Jewry would suddenly make, one of the only moves that they could, or at least, diplomatic moves that they could against Turkey itself. But we'll go on. The overarching sentiment in Turkish media is one of shattered expectations. Ankara hoped ethnic and cultural ties would align the Turkic states with the geopolitical goals. Instead, as Birgin put it, Central Asian countries are driven by their interests, prioritizing EU investments over Turkey's vision. The pragmatic choice of economic gain over ideological solidarity has left Turkey feeling isolated, with the Turkish nation dream promoted through the organization of Turkic states crumbling under the weight of financial incentives. Obviously, this is from the Greek City Times, so they're going to be anti-Turkish, of course, but this goes on. It talks about the blue homeland situation, and obviously the fact that Cyprus is in the EU, and I believe they're in NATO. Not 100% sure on that, but the fact that Cyprus is in the EU is already, interesting enough. They have the whole territorial dispute. Some would say that it goes against guidelines that allow countries to be in these international organizations. But this is, I don't want to say positive or negative, but it's definitely good that the TRNC is not being further entrenched as just a sort of understood reality of the modern geopolitical landscape. But I have this. I talked about this on the more recent episode of World War Now, the past 2 episodes, I believe. about what's going on with Azerbaijan. This is from the Hudson Institute. We'll start sharing this tab. What the West gains from befriending Baku. And this was that, this is from the Wall Street Journal piece that the Hudson Institute put out that discusses why the U.S. needs to befriend Azerbaijan. Well, Israel and the U.S. need to befriend Azerbaijan as a main counterweight against Russia and Iran, because Azerbaijan is the only country that borders both of them. They counter this guy, Michael Rubin, who had said something that Israel shouldn't fall for the Azeri Trojan horse. And they criticize all of that. But they also do apologetics for the Karabakh War and, go against Armenia, comparing it to the Ukrainian situation. But I was just going to read this here. Azerbaijan is strategically vital to the West, is the only country in the world that borders both Russia and Iran, and it successfully resists domination by both. Without a strong and independent Azerbaijan, there would be no middle corridor, the only land route from Central Asia to Europe that isn't dominated by either Moscow or Tehran. There would be no southern gas corridor, a U.S.-backed initiative that brings gas to America's North Atlantic Treaty Organization allies. If the U.S. wants to compete with Russia and China in Eurasia without putting boots on the ground, it needs partners. Simply by guarding its autonomy, Azerbaijan checks Russian expansionism, deters Iranian aggression, and provides Europe with energy security. The subtext there is it's not necessarily Europe that's the one main being provided, it's Israel. Israel has energy security thanks to Azerbaijan and its access to the Caspian. Of course, controlling Syria and these other places is important to Israel for easier land shipments towards Israel and pipelines potentially. Of course, there's the IMEC corridor as well, which would come up through Gaza, which again not connected to Azerbaijan, but the energy situation in this, again, the deep energy conflict, as we talked about with George McMillan, is sort of what undergirds all of this. So everybody needs to be watching Azerbaijan. A lot of times, myself included, there was rumors, I think Aliyev was even hinting at it, that Azerbaijan was going to recognize the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. It would obviously be the most likely country to do this, being the closest with Turkey. And I always found it interesting how Azerbaijan and Turkey are so close, despite the fact that the Azeris are technically Shia, whereas the Turks are Sunni. But the thing that binds them both together is their Turkic racial identity, their Islam, but more importantly, their sort of secular Islam. They both very secular societies. We talked about when we were discussing the Karabakh War, how there are actually more Eastern Orthodox Christians in Azerbaijan than in Armenia, because Armenians are, of course, non-Chalcedonian apostolic Armenians who are not in communion with world Orthodoxy, or just Orthodoxy. Don't want to accidentally use the language of the true Orthodox. But the situation in Azerbaijan, again, we've always considered it a linchpin of the Third World War, because of, obviously, as the Hudson Institute article addresses, with it being bordering Russia and Iran, its connection with Turkey, but also the fact that, again, Ilham Aliyev, their president, many have said that he himself is a mountain Jew, and Azerbaijan sort of represents this confluence between more secular, moderate Muslim interests and Jewish interests in the region, which, despite the fact that, of course, evangelical Christians are sort of the biggest Shabbos goys in the game, many of these Muslims far outpace, especially Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox Christians, when it comes to being subservient to Israel. So I kind of wanted to make that point to everybody. If anybody has any comments or questions about World War III, Azerbaijan, what's going on there, feel free to send a super chat. But I'm going to move on to the main thing that I was going to talk about this evening, which, of course, is a follow-up on the Austin Metcalf situation. Apologies, my voice is giving a little bit. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Got a solid audience going here. But I just wanted to, and I'm not trying to rage bait everybody here. I know everyone's been mad about what's going on, but I wanted to highlight, there's so many of these threads. I just picked this one. And so if everybody sees, for those that can't read it, this black individual with her real, I'll discuss this in a second. So the tweet is, I don't know what's the story is. What's the story is. Interesting. With the black boy and the white boy. Notice black capitalized, white is not. but I'm automatically on the black boy side. And you got all the comments. Obviously, we got some people saying, calling her out, but it's the same story about a white bully laying his hands on a black kid who defended himself. You know, white people feel so privileged and they feel they can dish it, but they surely can't take it. And they will all be okay. They was trying to make him give up his seat and tried jumping him. And he won. I mean, again, this is a person tweeting on an account with their real face and name. This is this person's real face. This person's family follows them on here probably. And so many of these black people in the comments are just on there. Yeah, see, it was just a classic case of F around and find out. This is this dude's actual stuff. I mean, this is, again, you might see some white people saying some pretty harsh things, but almost all of those are going to be anons. I mean, I've been going pretty hard. I'm one of the only face-doxed white people that's actually going to be, that are actually going to be tweeting speaking my mind about this, if I'm going to be 100% honest. But again, 1.8K likes, hundreds of retweets, hundreds of comments, and people need to remember as well, the fundraiser, the GoFundMe for Carmelo Anthony, I think it's almost getting close to 200,000 now. It's well over $100,000. It's well over what Austin Metcalf's GoFundMe was. So maybe I'll drop that at some point. $20 from Alan Wong. Thank you for telling us what the story is. Salute to you, brother. You're one of World War Now's strongest soldiers, so we appreciate it. Keep in order with the wrench. But yeah, and again, even if this was a self-defense situation where some kids got into a scrap at a track meet, which is not what happened, that still wouldn't justify cold-blooded murder by stabbing somebody in the heart. But again, this isn't what happened. There was no aggression. There was no fight. There's no bullying. This black kid didn't even know Austin. They sat down. They told him to move because he wasn't supposed to be there. He said, "Touch me and see what happens." He reached into his backpack. Austin, probably just poked him. And he got stabbed to death and bled out in his twin brother's arms. And people just need to realize that, especially with the internet right now and how many people are online and the ascendant lack of censorship, these black people don't understand what's coming for them. Like, they think that they're just doing their normal thing. Yeah, I can tweet at all this stuff. The same thing with Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown. They get to go out, kill Whitey for a bit. That's what happens when something bad happens to them. But they know that nothing is going to come, at least immediately. Like, there hasn't been any fear of vigilante justice in this country on these kinds of things in decades, generations. And I mean, as Sam Hyde once said, it's the knockout game, and eventually white people are going to get sick of playing it. And that is pretty much exactly what's happening right now. Got $10 from Pantaleimon. I think it's interesting that his legal fund has raised $300,000, but Derek Chauvin couldn't have a GoFundMe. Yeah, Derek Chauvin, who his knee wasn't even on George Floyd's neck, first of all. It was on his upper back. And George Floyd, of course, died of a fentanyl overdose. Derek Chauvin wasn't only not allowed to have a GoFundMe, but he's, of course, going to be in prison for the rest of his life. He got stabbed like 74 times, and that didn't even prompt an appeal or a retrial, or like, maybe we should reconsider what's going on here, considering that this guy, didn't do anything wrong and is now being likely targeted by every single black person in prison. He had the federal hate crimes slapped on top of it as well, which again, everyone's like, Trump should pardon Derek Chauvin. Doesn't really matter. The state charges are still there, and the president can't pardon state charges. So Chauvin, if anything, it would get him sent to a state prison, which would probably be worse than the current situation that he's in. And we got people in the chat. Derek was made an example of. It's exactly what it was. And after 2020, the BLM thing, there was, Jared Taylor, Steve Saylor have talked about this. There was the big explosion of black exuberance where they knew that ultimately the cops weren't going to enforce the law on them as black people because of fear of obviously everything that was going on. And the fact that, again, we had this huge crime wave in the black community, like black on black crime shot up in like the 2-3 years after the racial reckoning that was George Floyd. And that's because cops stayed away from them. There was a brief period of anarchy that was pretty much just allowed to happen. And then, of course, the whole COVID thing was going on at the same time, which made it much more complicated. But this Austin Metcalf thing has taken it's become such a national story. It's been one of the main things discussed on the internet for the past 2 weeks. And it's because more white people are willing to say what's up, because everyone already lived through the George Floyd thing. Everybody posted a black square. There's no illusions now. White people know that the vast majority of white people not only are not racist, but are at the drop of a hat willing to flagellate themselves and go full anti-racist, because that's just what it means to be white these days. And so now with that background, people are realizing, hold on, these black people just want to kill us. Like, these black people are just happy that one of them killed one of us. And to them, it is a race war. Like, this idea that white people are race baiters, or white people want to start race wars, or it's the exact opposite. The only reason, I mean, the closest time we got to quote unquote racial harmony was like the late 90s. Obviously Rodney King happened in the 90s, and black people have never, stopped complaining. They've always been, oh, we didn't do nothing. Oh man, they killing us, man. Shit, all that kind of nonsense. But then, the 2000s came in, maybe the early 2000s, you could even say, but then Obama came in, and suddenly the black people felt they had the whip hand. That was how they felt it. Who was it? It was Enoch Powell in his Rivers of Blood speech. He said, in 2-3 generations, the black man will come to hold the whip hand over the whites in this country. Obviously, that's what's happening in the UK. The leader of the Conservative Party is a freaking dark-skinned black African woman, which I'm so glad I'm not a bonger. My ancestors may have come from there, but the situation in the UK is bleak. But then when Obama came into power, that's exactly how black people viewed it. They're like, yeah, one of our guys is in power. We're going to punish Whitey. And Obama did punish Whitey. I mean, between, setting the stage in the Department of Justice to gut local police departments and all these federal hate crime stuff. I mean, look at what happened to the McMichaels. People remember the Ahmaud Arbery situation. The guy was literally going and stealing things at a construction site, got chased down by some local neighbors, tried to wrestle a gun from one of them, got shot. Both of those guys are doing life in prison now because they were former cops. They had the former prosecutor, they claim, had some connection to them and was being biased by not charging them with murder, because they didn't murder anybody. They defended themselves against a deranged black good-for-nothing criminal. And the fact that the feds were able to just step in, remove the prosecutor, make sure that the McMichaels got the book thrown at them, that was very much a lesson, especially in the Deep South, because there's a lot of judges, prosecutors in the Deep South that still ultimately know what's up. I mean, just look at the map of the United States. The most anti-racist white people live in New England, where there are no black people. The people in the Pacific Northwest, the anti-racist white people there, don't live near black people. Where do the supposed Hicks, the racist sundown towns, where are all these places located in the United States? It's in places where there's a lot of black people. You go to Arkansas and Missouri, you go to Kentucky, you go to Mississippi. These are the states where the average imbecile, city slicking imbecile, libtard, will say, oh, those racists, you got to be careful down there. Why am I doing the Western accents? Like, oh, those racists, you got to be careful down there. Sundown towns, the cops there are racist. So why are all the people who know black people, who live with black people, who have black neighbors, who have towns that are majority black sometimes, or plurality black, or barely a plurality white, these are all the uneducated, ignorant white people, whereas the people that have never seen a black person in their entire life in New Hampshire and Vermont, they should be the authority on black people. They're the people that we should trust as an authority on racial relations in this country. It's just ridiculous. And of course, some of these idiots in Maine are happy to ship in Somalians and ship in all these random other third worlders to diversify. But ultimately, it would take a lot of foreign migration to equal, obviously, what occurred in the South after the Emancipation Proclamation, and what occurred in the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic during the Great Migration, when cities like Detroit and Baltimore and Indianapolis got, ruined. And as, people have read E. Michael Jones' The Slaughter of Cities, every ethnic white urban area was ethnically cleansed by blacks. I'm talking, Polish neighborhoods in Chicago, other ethnic Italian neighborhoods in places like Detroit and Indianapolis. Again, these places where there was white culture, that wasn't necessarily just the kind of homogenized Anglo-American culture that spread across the continent of the United States. Those places were destroyed. because blacks moved in and did what they do, right? And there's people like this is just par for the course. And again, I encourage everybody to check who is saying this. You will find all sorts of anonymous racist people obviously saying correct things, going hard, but just notice how many black people with their normal accounts, their normal face and name, their families following them, are just openly preaching genocidal hatred against white people. And if people don't realize this, then nothing will help them realize it. And people are like, what are you implying? What are you saying about this? What should we do? I'm saying that until something legal occurs, you need to take matters into your own hands and separate yourself from these people. If you love your kids, if you care about your kids, you would care about them more than being called a quote-unquote racist. Because racist, first of all, is a made-up word that didn't even exist before the 20th century and is a pejorative made up by Hebrew people to make sure that white people don't stand up for themselves. So that's the situation that we're in right now. And ultimately, we will never do what has to be, white people will never have as strong of an identity as blacks because of the general situation. But what they can do is, again, form private membership associations and do other things that can ensure that their children will never be in a situation that Austin Metcalf was in. And look what happened in the aftermath, of course. Austin Metcalf's father immediately comes out and apologizes and says this wasn't racial, stop politicizing this. And again, everyone's making the point, the CRS probably came and did this. I believe it's the Community Resource Services. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's this Department of Justice branch that basically comes whenever a black person commits some horrible crime against a white person and gets everybody to calm things down. There's so many examples of this. Scott Greer had a recent article about it. Of course, everyone remembers Molly Tibbetts' dad, the woman who was brutally raped and murdered by an illegal immigrant. He came out and said that they have really good food and this shouldn't be about immigration and illegal immigrants are great. He even, I think, welcomed one of the friends of his murderer, another illegal immigrant, like into his home or something. Like, I'm not one to throw these accusations around, but you are a cuck, bro. Like, you're gonna, like, I'm surprised you didn't just offer him your wife. Like, that's what it sounds like you're into at this point. And then there was the guy, I'm forgetting his name. His kid got killed by a drunk driving, like, black immigrant or something like that. And he came out and was like, hey, I wish my kid had gotten killed by a white person or else none of this would be happening. And it's like, this is demonic. Like, this is straight up demonic level stuff that we're dealing with here. Demonic levels of self-hatred, demonic levels of, I mean, you basically hate your own kids if you care more about how you're going to be perceived. But how much you want to bet he didn't say that and the news just made it up? Well, it's on video. The people saying everything I just said, so it's not made up. We got Pantalemon. I grew up in Maine in the 70s and 80s. I knew 2 black people there. Now it's significantly different. Indeed, it is. I know in Portland and these other places, there are Somalian enclaves now, which that is just unacceptable. That's just not what we need to be doing right now. But actually, let me find Scott's article really quick. It's good. Let me pull that up. Here's the article, Why Victims of Black on White Crime Go Out of Their Way to Denounce Racism. And in the article, he makes the good point that while, yes, the CRS, the Community Relations Services, they do get involved in these cases, he makes this point here. However, this theory fails to take into account that many white Americans would make these statements regardless of whether the feds told them to. Even in grief, they don't want to be perceived as racist. They want to be seen as good people, and they will publicly forgive their loved one's killer and condemn any politicization of the case to gain this status. And obviously, there are many examples of white people reacting this way. So many examples of people saying this kind of thing. He has a lot of examples of this, the Molly Tibbetts situation. And again, I've mentioned Ahmaud Arbery earlier. We've got Matt Walsh coming out, blazing for Austin Metcalf. He's been a bit more of a warrior for the white race recently, but people remember Matt Walsh during Ahmaud Arbery. He was like, hey man, Ahmaud Arbery is just one of the guys. He was just checking out a construction site. It's what guys do. You go through the construction site, you look at what's going on. It's like, yeah, Matt, white people do that. That's something white people do. Black people do not look at something that is not theirs under construction and appreciate it. They see a construction site and think, timberlands, expensive electronic and building equipment that I can sell. Maybe someone's phone is there. These are the things that run through a sub 90 IQ individual's mind when they see a construction site. So that's one thing. But I think the fact that, again, between Derek Chauvin and the McMichaels and a few of these other examples, the message has been sent that the white race has been disarmed, that there is no, white people are disparate individuals and every other race can act as a group. And it's a scary reality to be in. I think ultimately these sorts of things are going to be a bit of a sea change. I think in the next few years, more and more of these stories are going to happen. I mean, the advent of police body cams and their requirement has also been a huge boon for white people and people that believe in law and order, because the vast majority of police-involved shootings where a black person gets shot or killed, which, again, tragic. I don't want anyone to get shot or killed, especially by the police, but it is almost always the black person who escalated the situation, reaching for there are even situations where the cop was in the wrong and shoots an unarmed person. Half of those, as far as I can tell, it's still the black person's fault. There's a video of this guy that shot an unarmed person, and the black guy was like walking towards him, like doing one of these, like hand in his jacket, like you're walking by, as if he was about to pull out a gun. He ended up getting capped, and everyone's like, wow, so evil. It's like, it's one of those great narratives where obviously people remember John Derbyshire used to write for National Review. At a few years ago, probably over a decade now, there was an article and there were ads about it. And there was all this stuff about how black people have the talk with their kids, that black families eventually, when their kids get old enough, they have to sit them down and have the talk with them, which the talk is that cops are racist. You need to do whatever cops say because they'll kill you. And that's the world we live in. And you got to accept it as a black person that you're put upon and the white person is your enemy. There's a few problems with that narrative that this is something that occurs widespread. The first one being that most black people have parents that give a shit about them, which is the first lie. That isn't true at all. Especially that they have two-parent household or that there's a father in the situation. Obviously, even if the talk was occurring, you've already got to presuppose that it's just mammies, just baby mamas giving this to their kids, which, come on. Are they sitting down for a reasonable, well thought out academic conversation about police brutality in America? And let's say they are. Let's say this is happening. Black people don't act like they're afraid of the police. Do you see videos where black people interact with the police? It's not like the Sam Hyde Officer Maggot sketch where there's that one black kid who's like super scared, like, oh no, the cop, he might kill me. Most videos where they're, that you're seeing on the internet where there was an escalation with the police, the black person is mouthing off, the black person is not complying, the black person is sometimes even overtly racially assaulting the police officer, calling them racist from the get-go, these sorts of things. And just in general, just even videos where there's no one killed, even videos where there's no arrest, watch police body cam footage, watch footage from cops, watch footage from other police-related shows. Are black people afraid of the police? Just ask yourself that. Are they afraid? Then they're not. They're not afraid at all. Especially after George Floyd, they know that they can get a payout, and if somehow they get shot, which they don't really have a big connection between, if I get shot, I'll die. Because a lot of them live, so they're like, oh yeah, I get shot. It's whatever. And again, as people have pointed out, 1 in 22 black men in the United States will kill someone in their lifetime. So think of all the black people you know. If you know more than 22 and you're in the United States, statistically, one of them has killed someone or will kill someone. You look at the statistics as well, and black women have a higher homicide rate than white men. Black women have a higher homicide rate than all Asians as well, obviously. Asians, when you compare them to whites, blacks, and Hispanics, Asians, they don't even really register as far as a lot of these crimes are concerned. So salute to our Oriental brothers. We have some in the chat. But I think the fact that, again, there's this big narrative that white people walk around thinking that, oh, black people are scared of the police. Mass incarceration is terrible. The only answer to this problem is to dramatically increase mass incarceration. We have to probably at least triple the prison population in the United States to really make a dent in violent crime. And I do not support vigilantism. I don't support a return to an era where there were lynch mobs. I understand those things. I'd argue most lynch mobs were probably legitimate. Leo Frank was a victim of a lynch mob. We know he was guilty. He raped and murdered Mary Fagan and tried to blame it on a black guy. And the KKK was like, it wasn't the black guy. So he got strung up. And that was good. And God smiled when that happened. So people need to understand that our conception of, due process, law and order, it's all from minorities' perspectives. They will throw the book at you if you were in the Capitol on January 6th, if you protested the removal of a Confederate monument at Charlottesville. In the UK, they arrest you for just tweeting against murder if the other person is brown. So it's full spectrum dominance. It's a full InfoWar terror op on the mind of the Saxon to convince them not to rise up, as it were. But the answer to what we have to do here, and this will sound radical, and I would say maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. The only way to solve this is to lock people like Carmelo Anthony in prison when they're probably 14 years old, 15 years old, and never let them out. That's the answer. When somebody who is one of these low IQ, angry, violent freaks, psychopaths, antisocial, dangers to society, we need to pinpoint this. Everyone's in school. They're going to these school counselors. Not everyone goes to school, obviously, but we can generally pinpoint this before somebody becomes a recidivist repeat offender that is one of the people that causes the majority of crime. I mean, again, even within the black male population who commit the vast majority of violent crimes, it's like 1% within that group that do the vast majority of these crimes. I believe Trump called them super predators. I think even Joe Biden called them super predators back in the 94 crime bill that he championed that did actually clean up the streets in this country. And so the answer, of course, is to basically do a sort of eugenics operation. And I'm not talking abortion or anything like that out of, a more full encompassing eugenics operation. I'm simply saying that people that are obviously going to become dangerous criminals, which is a certain subpopulation of the black male population in this country, they need to not only be preemptively locked up before they actually kill somebody, but they need to basically be put in prison when they commit their first minor offense, be continually evaluated, which will, if you're honest, confirm that they should still be in prison. And the real benefit from this isn't just to get these people off the streets, it's to make sure that they don't reproduce. Because look, even in the white and Asian communities, women, they're not picking right. They're not settling down with a good job, steady, good guy. They're looking for Chad. In the black vernacular, they'll say they're looking for Tyrone. And a lot of these people, again, even in the white community, they're getting knocked up by these losers, by these drug dealers, by people that commit a lot of petty crime. In the case of the black community, by a lot of gangbangers. So you'll have some of these guys that are locked up in prison for like a double murder. They've got like 13 kids running around with like 7 different baby mamas. And so what have we done? We've genetically cloned 7 more little murderers that are going to run around and kill other people, instead of, likely, again, in this case, someone will have been locked up for armed robbery. They'll be locked up for selling drugs. They'll be locked up for manslaughter. Then they'll finally kill someone and they'll probably go to jail for life. But if we just taken it seriously before and done what everyone knew needed to be done and taken this person out when they were a juvenile, most likely, then they would, not only would they not have committed those crimes, but they wouldn't have passed down their horrible genetics to the next generation that will struggle with their propensity towards violence. And again, Roe versus Wade has been overturned. It's amazing. I believe that I support a nationwide abortion ban. I believe even blue states should not have any abortion whatsoever. But we have to be honest about this. If we are going to completely remove abortion, we have to recognize that a lot of poor people and a lot of black people and a lot of people that are from a more criminal underclass are going to give birth. They're not going to do what they normally did and treat abortion like birth control, because that in general is a very low IQ thing to do, to treat abortion like birth control. We're going to have to make up for that on the criminal justice front. We're going to have to take super predators out of society when they're juveniles, make sure they don't hurt anybody else, and most importantly, make sure that they don't pass down their faulty genetic material to the next generation. And of course, right now, the only positive thing that is occurring TFR related is the fact that religious people are, of course, having more and more children. It is understood, even Edward Dutton, has talked about this extensively, that the future will be much more conservative and religious in some capacity, because those are the only people having children. And in many ways, religiosity and political affiliation are actually trackable with genetics, that they're heritable traits. And that's not to say that everybody's beliefs, they believe them because, they inherited them genetically. But I mean, look, I'm a conservative Christian, fairly radical, some might say. I mean, I'm not trying to throw my parents under the bus here, but they have fairly similar perspectives on a lot of things. Not everything. I'm not speaking for my parents. They can disavow whatever they want, but generally speaking, I am not that different from them as far as my perspective on things, the paths that I've followed, how I think about the world. It's clearly been influenced by the fact that I am a genetic descendant of my mother and my father. And then you look back down the line and it continues to make sense. And that's not always true. That's sort of been the big game that mass media has kind of pulled on over people, is it is such a powerful, all-encompassing tool that, you spend enough time doing this all day, scrolling on the algorithm. Yeah, it will override that genetic predisposition that a lot of people, of course, have, that puts them towards being conservative, that puts them towards being religious. Your brain will get rewired by, these scrying mirrors that we have. And that's part of why Marshall McLuhan said that, the Third World War is a guerrilla information war with no distinction between civilian and military infrastructure. Obviously, black people have been weaponized on the United States by, world Jewry for obvious reasons. But the reality of that, we've basically been forced to unlearn everything we knew about society, whether that be religiosity, everyone's racial identity. That was undone by, really was the television that did it for the boomers. And now that the internet has sort of revitalized a lot of these conversations, it's also still being weaponized against our generation to make sure that, maybe even if you become aware of these things, your brain has been so fried by being in these sort of dopamine loops that what are you even going to be able to do with any knowledge that you actually come to? I think that's the real issue right now. People's brains are just being totally cooked to where even if there was, sort of a resurgence of white identity and people wanted to stand up, the human capital has been lowered. So I think that's something that people have to think about. But, people are saying there's no turning back from this episode. Well, I guess it's crazy how different people think about when you say things just with your face on the camera. Like, I've said so much stuff on World War Now where my face, I guess, just isn't up there, where, it just doesn't matter. This is just a guy talking. This could be AI. But now I'm sitting here, my little box and my microphone right here, and it's over. Right Wing Watch clips this, and my life is over, right? I've got people in my life, I'm sure, that would happily disavow me, which, you got to think of those things as upsides, right? If someone's going to disavow you over speaking the truth, then they were never really your friend to begin with, right? So that's how these things go. And look, I grew up in a majority black country. For people that didn't know that, I grew up in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And look, I love those people. I love Turks Islanders. I love black people. But even there, I never had any racial consciousness. But you just know, like, if you're in a situation and you're the only white person, very young, I had to realize that it's just not an ideal situation to be in. And when I was, I don't know, 9, maybe 8, I can't remember how old I was, there was a big crime wave on the island. And the guy's name was literally Jackson Black. He was black. And he had killed people, and he had not that many guns on the island. He had one, and him and his buddies, they were running around. And we lived on our property, and we had some other houses, and we had a property manager that lived in the house next to ours. And I woke up for school one morning and I saw her sleeping on the couch in our living room. And I was like, she doesn't usually sleep on our couch. What's going on? So I'm talking to my parents and they told me they'd tell me what happened after school. And I ended up hearing about it at school. It was in the news and everything. The Jackson Black and one of his accomplices, they broke in to my neighbor / my dad's employee's house. They tied her to a chair. They took off her pants. They stole all of her stuff, her laptop and everything. And whatever they were about to do, I don't know. It sounds like they were going to do something bad. Her boyfriend ended up coming by and scaring them off, and they took the car and everything and ran away. And thank goodness nothing horrible happened to her. But, this happened when I was a kid, and we had to have like armed security walking around in the midst of this crime wave. And I think that, again, I'm not going to say that there was my origin story. That's why I feel the way I feel. It's just, I just haven't been ignorant of these things. A lot of people will never experience something like that. I live in a neighborhood right now where the vast majority of the people here have never and will never experience anything like that. And when you look at these sorts of things, there's no like justifying it. As I just explained, Black people, they're not afraid of the police. And of course, the people are like, well, you ain't addressing the systemic issues that are leading to this. Well, Turks and Caicos is a majority Black country with a Black government, and only Turks Island Black people can even vote. White people there aren't even politically enfranchised. So I don't know how the argument goes there about why they love killing so much. But of course, even in America, everybody has seen, I've been posting it a million times on X, the graph. Let me see if I can find this. I've posted it a solid amount recently. Yes. This one. Very important. This shows that the poorest white American town has lower crime than the richest Black American town. The example being Beattyville, Kentucky, which has a median income of less than $15,000. And the violent crime per 100,000 people is 158, which is much lower. Property crime as well than Park Windsor Hills in California, which I don't know, is that where Will Smith was from in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? I guess that's that kind of neighborhood. So you can go live with Will Smith and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air characters, and you're still going to be more likely to get shanked than you are living in straight up meth town Appalachia, probably. And that's no offense to the good people of Beattyville, Kentucky, but look, rural white America, it's rough out there as well. But for better or for worse, you don't have to worry that bad about getting stabbed to death, which is now a problem at rich public school community football games, track meets, because Black people are there, because school. But look, Frisco, some Austin Metcalf shouldn't have been in school with these people, even if there wasn't enforced segregation, if it wasn't for busing and the fact that everyone thinks that Black people have to be dispersed, like they basically take Black people who sink every school system metric in America and disperse them out across the school system to kind of prevent the damage from looking really terrible. I'm pretty sure it was Mississippi, was always ranked at the bottom of education. And they basically started a new system of taking grades and statistics where it sort of separated out the lowest of the Black achievers. And now Mississippi, it turns out white people in Mississippi, they're fine. The education system's fine. They do okay. There's not some magic soil in Mississippi that makes people retarded. It's just the most Black state in the union. So the statistics look terrible. Because, I mean, look, you go to some of these places, most Black people out of these school systems, they can't even read. They can't do math at a 6th grade level. This is what we're talking about here. Pantalemon with $5. Captain Clutch asked, I saw his question, how do whites unlearn the brain rot? Well, it's quite the question, right? How do you detox from the dopamine cycle? I don't know, watch some Gerbert Johnson. He talks about this. But I think, in general, you got to read books. You got to go to the liturgy. I think going to liturgy is a really great way to do this because I think in a way it takes less discipline than reading a book. You just make sure that you always go to liturgy. Like, obviously, I remember I always had the Sunday church going habit, being raised with my parents, but, get in the habit of going to pre-sanctifieds and going to Vespers during the week. That's something as a Protestant you kind of have to force yourself to get into. And that, obviously you're not going to be on your phone in the liturgy. So the more time you spend in the liturgy, you are going to be resetting your dopamine receptors. You're going to be and reinforcing a better time preference for yourself. And obviously being on your devices less, reading books. If you are going to be engaging with media electronically, listen to a podcast or an audiobook, and then do something productive while you're doing that. Go for a walk, go for a run, lift, do something around the house. I think the key is to make sure that you are obviously having regular social interactions, but I'm probably going to have a whole show in the future about how cooked the public square is, do a sort of bowling alone bit. But in general, and I think Nick Fuentes was talking about this recently, it's one of the main reasons why people have been able to just accept the decline of civilization is because of technology, because of the phone, because of the endless scroll, because of the fact that technology has been sort of universalized and people are able to have access to what previously would have only been something that at that cutting edge of technology would have only been available to the very cream of the crop. I mean, think about your electron microscopes, your enormous planetarium telescopes that supposedly can see into deep space. They can't. All sorts of, think of back in the day, there was this amazing exhibit at the Met when I lived in New York City that had these non-electric mechanical automatons. And back in the day, royals, wealthy people would pay so much gold for these craftsmen to make these robots. You wind them up and they can walk and they can do all these crazy tasks. It was amazing. But that's not something everybody could have. Whereas now, everyone has one of these. And this is, the pinnacle. Like, I've got the extent of human knowledge right here on this, and I can just look it up at any time I want. And we were not actually, I don't think we were actually meant to have more knowledge than the Library of Alexandria in our pockets at all times. Think about what that does for your sort of planes of reality, what you view as possible, how you compare yourself and your community and those around you to literally not just the rest of the world, but the rest of recorded history and everything else. And if people weren't able to get in their bed, you see all the memes, it's like, finally, my favorite time of day, scroll phone in bed. If people didn't have that, if people weren't able to be completely satiated with their dopamine and with their curiosity by these things, they'd be like, hold on, we're getting killed by black people every day in America. That's not good. Hold on. We're funding Israel's wars. Hold on. Our country is clearly run by Talmudists. Hold on. We're being replaced. Hold on. Our food is poison. Hold on. Women are out of control. Any of the things that are happening, if we didn't have, this nonsense to keep us distracted, I'm not saying we would have risen up, but there'd probably be more institutions and organizations dedicating to fixing these problems. $10 from Josh. I'm firing my forge for the first time tonight. Good timing considering this evening's truth. So true. What's everyone up to? Let us know what you're doing while listening to me yap. Dopamine feedback loops, one of the main problems of our age. Porn, doom scrolls, touches everything. Acedia is this generation's chief passion. So true. So true. Our quest is for silence, as they say. If you live near a monastery, that's the best way to reset the dopamine. If you live near a monastery, spend as much time there as you can. The services will be long. Sometimes they won't even be in English, which is a good way to get some Jesus prayers in. And just being able to be silent, be able to pray noetically, or at least try to begin to pray noetically. That's what we have to do, because think how hard it is just to pray. I struggle even with my not super difficult prayer rule just because of the noise and everything. And just think about how many things you do throughout the day that take work. You make your food, you do your chores, you take out the trash, you mow the lawn, because you have to. But then when you're faced with prayer, which you definitely have to do, oh, I'm tired, oh, this, oh, my phone, oh, this, that, and I'm condemning myself here. I'm not judging anybody else but me. But that's just how these things go. And until we fight that, not only are we not going to be able to pray and focus on the things we need to in our internal lives, but society as a whole is not going to be able to organize itself and come together in a way that will allow us to address any of these problems. We wouldn't be able to resist a war for Israel. We will not be able to organize as whites to protect our children from black violence. We're not going to be able to organize against things like pornography and degeneracy in the media. These things, we're just not going to be able to do that if we don't sort of transcend this technological cone that has been put around our heads that makes us think that, oh, everything's okay. I've got really fast internet and I can order DoorDash. So, guess I don't really need to question why the fact that the government is replacing us and we're committing a genocide we're praying a genocide in Gaza. So those are my thoughts. It's been an hour. It's the long and short of it. Should we play some racist Geogesser? I'm almost wondering if I milk this for super chats and like wait really long on the Ethnogesser guesses and let people pay $2 to guess for me. But I don't know. I was doing pretty well playing this earlier, so maybe that is maybe I'll just play and let everybody watch. But I don't know. What do you think? Am I going off? Am I off the goop? Am I off my rocker, or am I spitting? Let me know. I think I've been going off. This has been the goal of these streams, is to sort of instigate these go off moments from your boy. But I fear my voice may be gone in the morning because, man, my throat hurts. But we do it for the people. We do it for the content. But everyone can see the Ethnogesser stream. I think we're going to dive right into this. So send any super chats if you want to bring it back to the technology situation. But I'm going to start guessing some people's ethnicities. And this game is hard, okay? I'm sorry, but this game is red pilling because look, I'm not going to say I'm amazing. I'm pretty good, or at least I was when I was playing earlier. So maybe I'm going to embarrass myself. But a lot of blacks, like when you get Africans, you get Bantus or East Africans, it's very doable. I've been able to do it. If you get white people, even it's doable. But I'm sorry, but it's the brown horde biomass. And they all look the same. Where you're like, oh, is it an Amerindian from the Navajo Nation? Or is it someone from Central Asia? Or is it an Alaskan native? Or is it someone from Costa Rica? It's tough. So we're going to dive right into this. We got $5 more from Pantaleimon, though. Conrad, you mentioned the school system identifying poor performers. Interestingly, it was one of the inspirations for South African apartheid. Well, South African apartheid was a lot better for South Africa than whatever they're doing right now. So I think it's a good argument in the sense that what Alan says, descendant of Japheth struggles. So true. Maybe on this stream someday I'll show the mural on Mount Athos of the curse of Ham, where Shem and Japheth were white and were blessed, and Ham was African and cursed. It's on Mount Athos. But the situation with racial integration in the United States, everybody talks about like Waco, Ruby Ridge, which were of course horrible government overreaches, and everyone says that all these boomers with all their guns are like, oh, the government tries to tell me what to do, they're gonna be facing down the barrel of my AR-15. Well, the military mobilized against white Southerners in Arkansas, in Alabama, in Mississippi, all over, and forced them to integrate schools, forced literally the government at the point of a gun, mandated that the conditions that led to the murder of Austin Metcalf exist. You've seen the pictures. They were bayoneting people. They forced black people to have to go to school with white people, and that has led to the murder of literally hundreds of thousands of white people. So if anyone tries to tell you that our government isn't committing a genocide against whites, then I don't know what to tell you. You're probably just a partisan hack, because the government basically foisted a race war on an unwitting white population. This race war in this instance is only being fought by one side. White people don't think they're in a race war, but I can assure you that a large percentage of Black Americans very much view it that way. And if you don't view it that way, for the sake of your family, I recommend maybe start thinking a little bit differently. But let's hop right in to some Ethnogesser. I'm going off. The go-off juice has been sipped. Do I play the daily game, or do I just go challenge mode? Maybe we'll do the daily game right now. Okay. What do we got here? What are we looking at? These are meds, probably. How Turkic? How Turkic are we talking here is sort of the question. Could these be North Africans? They look a little light for North Africans. Could they be Cypriots? They could be Cypriots. That's what I was thinking too. But problem with Cypriots is they're like the true Eurasian people. That's almost the nexus, and we got to go out from there. I got a very good Greek guess earlier today, but I think maybe I will guess Cyprus. Let's see. And if this is really far away, don't clown me. Let's go right in the middle. Okay. Not bad at all. We were correct. They are Rum. We're in northern Lebanon here, which are where most of the Orthodox Christians in Lebanon live, which would make sense that they're connected to Cyprus. I did pretty well. 4.597. That's a good score for this game. So let's go next. Okay. Much more Asian. Much more Asian. These aren't meds. These are probably in some of the Stan. This is probably in some Stan country. And again, if someone super chats a guess, maybe I'll just be obligated to do it. So if you want to super chat and you have a guess, I'll just do it. How about that? But for those that don't know, I'm seeing people ask, this is Ethnogesser. It's like Geogesser, but it shows the average ethnic face of an area and makes you guess it. I'm seeing people saying these could be Inuits. I agree. When they start to get Asian, that means they could also be North American, quote unquote, natives. But I don't know. I'm getting Central Asian vibes too, though. But problem is sometimes the men and the women, one of them looks really like one thing and then the other gender totally confuses me. We got $10 from Alan Wong. Do you think most people must face ethnic conflict firsthand in order to understand these issues? Do you think traveling, talking to different people can help? Those are Amerindians, dude. All right. Let's do it. Let's see if we can get some nations. I'm going to go ahead and guess up in Alaska, Canada. Okay. I should have gone North, South Dakota. Still good. Solid guess, even though it was, I guess, lower than the average score. But I was on the right continent. They were Amerindians. Alan is correct. Alan, he's going to be good at this. There's going to be some Asians that are going to be able to phenotypically do this even better than me. But Alan, he said, first face ethnic conflict in order to do these things. If you're raised by boomers, then yes. If you somehow have racially aware parents, then you got lucky. You're going to be racially aware. But for a lot of people, if you're raised by baby boomers, where racism is the greatest sin, then you're going to have to experience that for yourself. And maybe for some people get so lucky where they just read a Jared Taylor book and are like, wow, if we do nothing, some of the Great American Dilemma, these are books that red pilled me in a lot of ways to really take it. But fundamentally, if I hadn't already had the experiences that I had with these other people, it might not have taken much of a situation. But you hear all the time, somebody who is aware of our views that they were one thing and then they got a gun pulled on them somewhere, or they drove through West Memphis and just saw what was going on, and maybe they didn't even have a criminal experience, and then the gears start to click, things start to make sense. So I think it's very different for different people, but that's sort of what's going on. But let's move on here. Next face. These look like Eskimos, man. Maybe these are Siberians? I'm getting Northern Asiatic native, though. That's sort of what I'm thinking. Yeah, these are the hard ones. Especially where the dude looks way more Asian and then the woman just looks, I don't know. I'm thinking Tuvan could be the play here. People are saying Vietnamese. I don't know. I don't think they're yellow enough for that. Let's try, some people are just saying Mexican. See, this is what I'm saying. When they're white, when they're European, when they're African, or even very obviously East Asian, it kind of gets easy. But it's just these steppe people and these jungle people, they get it, it gets confusing. But I'm going to go with, I'm going to go for some Siberian native. Maybe I'm off here, but let's go. Oh, okay. We were correct. Russia. I had these people, man, these Inuits, they got me earlier. These proto-Japanese people, Kirill Island type individuals got me earlier. But all right, we're not doing too bad. No embarrassing guesses so far. So let's go with the next phase. Oh boy. These are East Asians. These are some real Orientals. These are some high IQ Orientals here. I'm biased toward, people are going to say Korean because people watch these days so much more Korean television, like Squid Game and all this other stuff. But I don't know. I'm waiting for Alan or some other Asians to tell me where to go here. I might go on like the Korean border, maybe the Chinese Korean border. Is that what we're thinking here? I think I might have to go China. Let's go here. Let's go, baby. Perfect score. Oh my gosh, how close was I? Wow. We did it, Reddit. See, look. No one can I know my stuff. Shekel Seeker, $20. RE the technology discussion. What implications will the upcoming war have on technological infrastructure and its future? Seems like it would take a while to recover. Anything on it from Metropolitan Neophytos? Well, Metropolitan Neophytos does talk about this. He talks about even advances in quantum potentially confirming the existence of God. People have talked about this in relations to ether. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he has talked about that. He, of course, has talked about how there will be energy shortages, fuel shortages. So if there is this sort of big reckoning where global energy trade is disrupted, that might lead to a sort of downturn in immediate technological advancement and how it's trickling down to us as consumers. But at the end of the day, there is obviously the fact that if we do get into war, we're going to learn a lot more about the military technologies that all these countries have. Then, of course, that stuff will also get trickled into the consumer market eventually. When it comes to Malaysian Flight 170, I believe that people are talking about how there's 0-point energy and some of these things that had to do with the fact that the plane might have been teleported, these wormholes, this kind of anti-gravity kind of stuff. Eventually, I think within our lifetime, a lot of that's going to come out too. So I'm hoping that will lead to some technology, flying cars and these sorts of things. I think are actually more advantageous than, these scrying mirrors that we have. So maybe there's room to be optimistic, but with AI and the slop that's coming out from that, unfortunately, I'm not super white-pilled on the future of technology. I think, if it can come back, I do know there will be an Orthodox golden age. The internet has been used for that. I'm not sure if new technologies will be as, they will be as conducive to spreading the gospel as the internet, which has also dramatically escalated secularization and degeneracy too. $2, A+, guessing Chinese. Have a few grains of rye. Thank you, my Asian brother. But let's get back to this. Let's get the next face. All right. That is a Bantu. These are some Bantus here. I'm thinking East Africa. I'm thinking Senegal, Guinea, maybe even the Gambia. Let's go Senegal. No! The Bantu expansion strikes again. Bantu expansion, man. People say the Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Bantu expansion was a disaster for the African continent. I can say that. So it was just some straight Congo nonsense. Maybe these are the people fighting it out right now. These were almost getting to Hutu Tutsi distinction territory here. So they got me. Totally thought we were going West Africa, but yeah, makes sense now, I guess. All right. We got some steppe Asians here. These some Mongolians that we're looking at, perhaps? Are these a certain type of Japanese person that I don't know about? I'm not sure here. I want to say straight up Mongol. It's almost what I'm thinking here. But I don't want to miss out on an island person if they're on some island like Japan. But no, I think these are Mongolians. Let's see. Just Chinese. Well, is this Inner Mongolia? It might be Inner Mongolian Chinese. These are Tungids, split from neighboring types at the end of the Paleolithic. I'm not sure I believe all that about how old this stuff is, but I thought they were more Genghis looking. But yeah. Could have done better there, I guess. Let's move on. All right. Got a white guy. The woman's looking, if the woman was as white as the man, I might be tempted to consider them a little more white, but these are Meds at best, if not Turks. I don't know. This is where I get in trouble. I almost want to err on the less white side so people don't call me out. I'm wondering what people in the chat are thinking. You're thinking, what are these? Could these be Greeks? Could these be Turks? Could we be back in Cyprus? Could we be in Tunisia? I don't know. Trying to think. Again, the man looks very Balkan, but the woman looks more Middle Eastern. So I'm probably not going to guess the Balkans besides maybe some parts of Greece. Yeah, I agree. The man could be a Serb, but the woman is just looking a little too brown. I don't know. I'm tempted to go European Turkey. Chat, how are we feeling about European Turkey? I'm going to go with European Turkey. Ooh. Caucasoid Russian. What do we got going on here? These are straight, what are these, Don Cossacks? No, these Tatars? Caucasus, Alpinized, Denair, Armenid. So these are like Georgians. All right. I got a slightly better score than the average. Someone is asking me what I think about William Pierce. William Pierce is a smart guy who should have not spurged out and rejected Christianity and spent his time writing murder fan fiction. That is my opinion of William Pierce. The only reason I think positive of William Pierce is because of Murdoch. Let's put it that way. All right. I don't like this at all. I don't like how this guy's looking at me. I don't like his nose. But what are we thinking? What are we thinking? I don't want to say any kind I'm not getting super Hispanic vibes, if I'm being honest. I'm gonna have to go do something in a sec, but hold on. Can't see. But I don't know. I feel like I might get this one totally wrong. Oh, is this some kind of hinterland border European that had to fend off the barbarians for a while? Could these be North Africans? Ooh, Pantaleimon. Good call. I think that's what I'm going to do. Let's try here. Oh. Southern Sardinia. Interesting. I'd love to have someone to talk about Corsican separatism at some point. That'd be cool. I'm doing pretty well. I think I'm doing pretty well. This is some clippable stuff. I've yet to embarrass myself. We're 8 out of 10. Oh. Okay. These might be like Papuans. These might be like South Pacificos. If anyone thinks that this is someone in Africa, tell me where they think, because I'm probably not going to guess Africa. I'm probably going to guess somewhere in the South Pacific. Do you think tariffs in America are fulfilling the prophecy of St. Paisios saying that America will starve? Maybe. I don't know. I think a lot of things, I think natural disasters are going to hurt America in the future, so pray for that. Yeah, I'm thinking New Guinea as well. I'm going to go with some Papua. Boom! Dude, I'm good. I'm good at this. I'm no expert. $10. Good work. Thanks. Thank you for supporting the show, keeping the lights on. Thank you. Really, if you support financially, I cannot thank you enough because it really keeps us going here. We don't have sponsors. We don't have people paying us. We don't have yet. I would love a generous billionaire mega donor. We haven't found them yet. So you are who fund this show. So thank you. I'm proud of myself. I've been going off. All right. Can we go 10 for 10? Well, not that we've gone 10 for 10, but can we continue up not embarrassing ourselves? Oh boy. Oh boy. East African? East African, maybe? I'm thinking maybe East African or something else in the South Pacific again. Josh said, this is extremely cozy. That's what I like to hear. My favorite types of streams are cozy. Oh, good point. These are dark Indians. These are Dravidians. These could be Sri Lankans. These could be people in the Maldives. What about the Maldives? We thinking Maldives, maybe? I'm going to go that. I hit some Maldives. Should have just gone India. I got a perfect score. But yeah, those were subcontinentals. That was a good round, though. 10. I don't think I really embarrassed it here, but I think this was a good time. Maybe, I don't know if this will be every stream, but this will be what I do if I run out of things to yap about. I'll just start training my ethnic eye, my ability to profile people. So hoping for more. I need some more. I mean, the blackmail as well is it's like totally randomized, so it's just giving you whatever. And you like get no white people. They were like no Northern Europeans, no one in America, no Nords or anything like that. So people are joking about Darwinism. Look, Darwinism's not true. But if we don't sort of accept that there's validity to the curse of Ham and how Japhethites and Shemites weren't as cursed from the times of Noah, if you don't accept that, then you're going to be fighting an uphill battle against Darwinism because humans are clearly different species. I mean, species can interbreed. First of all, people recognize that people say, oh, well, ligers are infertile. It's not true. There are fertile offspring producing ligers, the offspring of lions and tigers that, again, that can produce offspring, fertile offspring. So while Darwinism itself isn't true, we do need to accept that much like there is speciation among genuses of animals and other mammals and whatnot, that's obviously what has existed here. Because, I mean, just you can look at albino Africans and see that race is not actually skin color. It goes a whole lot deeper than that. But I'm probably going to wrap up here. My throat is killing me. So if anyone has any more super chats, let them fly and I will answer your questions. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I think this was a great stream. I want to trying to keep doing this. This is my third stream. I might make the next one a Discord only for paid subscribers. Let me know in the comments of this if you're a paid subscriber, if that's something you'd be interested in, where I can have voice chat open and just talk with you guys openly. It's kind of like what Jay Dyer used to do on his Discord. So let me know your thoughts about that. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Share this stream if you want. I'm going to be, of course, posting the replay to Substack, as I always do. So be sure to like the post here, wherever you're listening, whether it's X or YouTube, and definitely like the posts on Substack. If you haven't already gone through and liked the recent Substack posts, please do that as well. We really don't like getting less than 40, 50 likes on there. It helps with the algorithm. So please help this. But people say the Orthodox Church does not say curse of Ham. Tell that to the monks on Mount Athos. That's all I have to say about that. But thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been a great time. Maybe I'll get some people on, paid subscribers. Maybe that can be a benefit. You can play me in duos. I don't know if that's even an option, but we can go head-to-head on Ethnogesser. So again, like everywhere, worldwarnow.co if you want to support the show, get behind the paywall. Really helps the show out. You get access, of course, you will get access to people say, what monks name it right now? I mean, I can just show you a drawing. I can just show you a mural I'm not going to dox the monastery, but this is on Mount Athos. And this was in a church. It's in the narthex of a wonderful church on Mount Athos. All right, I'm having a hard time finding it, but there's iconography portraying what people would commonly call the curse of Ham, with Ham, of course, being the forefather of Africans. But I promise you, I'm not saying that there's nobody that cannot be saved through Jesus Christ. Let's put it that way. But thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to pray for Austin Metcalf and his family. If you want to support the GoFundMe, do that. I didn't have the link. I'm sorry I wasn't able to provide it. But we really do need to get that link above Carmelo Anthony. It's so funny his name's Carmelo Anthony, because Carmelo Anthony was a professional basketball player. Basketball Americans, am I right? But I think that is the end of the stream for this day. Thank you again so much for listening, worldwarnow.co. You won't just get access to our upcoming Ether Hour episode with Cameron McGregor, but you get access to our episodes with Father Peter Hears, our many episodes with Anthony of Westgate, our episodes with Jim Jatris, Rachel Wilson, all sorts of amazing guests, hundreds of hours at this point of Ether Hour content. So be sure to check that out. It's all at the link below. And with all of that, thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you on next week's World War Live. I will also see you on this week's World War Now. So be sure to subscribe, like, and again, thank you so much for supporting. It has been a joy. God bless, and we will see you on the next one. Got to get the outro going here.